All right. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're calling from. On behalf of the Emory Alumni Association, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for some professional development. My name is Nicole Holybar-Walker, and I serve as Director of Learning Programs here at the Emory Alumni Association. Before we kick off, I'll ask that everyone keeps their microphone on mute for the first portion of the workshop. We'll be participating in a breakout session later on where you'll be able to unmute yourself and your audio and your video. I also encourage you to make sure that your name reflects your preferred name, your preferred pronouns, and your Emory year and degree. If you have any questions throughout, feel free to drop them in the chat and Hallie will answer them at the end of our session. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce today's speaker, Hallie Crawford. Hallie Crawford has been a certified career coach, speaker, author, and national career expert since 2002. Her company, Create Your Career Path, is headquartered here in Atlanta, Georgia. She is regularly featured in the media in places like Forbes, CNN, Money Magazine, Wall Street Journal, and has undergraduate and graduate degrees from Vanderbilt University and the University of Illinois. With over 2,000 success stories, her team of coaches and resume writers help professionals find jobs that make them want to jump out of bed in the morning and go to work. You can find her on createyourcareerpath.com. So join me in welcoming Hallie Crawford.
Thanks, Nicole, and thanks everyone for being here today. We greatly appreciate it. With COVID and working remotely, our latest or most recent running joke has been want to jump out of bed in the morning to go to work because they're excited about it, but to walk down the hall versus get in the car and commute, etc. So we are going to be talking about how to know when it's time to go. This is a really big topic for so many professionals these days for obvious reasons, the Great Resignation, everything else that's going on. And what's kind of funny as we dive into this is I almost feel like in some ways, like thinking about a new job or considering something new, it's almost like the popular thing to do in that our clients are saying, well, should I just be looking just because I should? Like it's a good market, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to be talking today about how to be really thoughtful and mindful about knowing if it is time to leave your job and make any kind of change. We are going to have content and webinar format, as you all know, at the beginning, and then we'll have breakout rooms kind of halfway through, and we will do some Q&A at the end as well. So as Nicole said, I'm a certified career coach. Our company is based in Atlanta, Georgia, but we have resume writers and coaches that work remotely actually all over the country. My undergrad degree is from Vanderbilt and grad degree from the University of Illinois, but I've been a very proud Emory partner for years and years. I don't even know how long it's been, Nicole, but it's been a very long time, especially since we're based in Atlanta. And the advice that we're going to give you today is advice that we have been giving our clients based on what's been going on in people's minds and in the job market these days and how to really think about things wisely and thoughtfully, if you will. So many people, understandably, are thinking about making a move because of the impact of COVID. We've had clients tell us completely different things. It's been very interesting. Some of them have said, you know, I can't wait to go back to the office because I realize that my coworkers and feeling like a part of a team, et cetera, was a critical piece to my sense of fulfillment in my job, all the way to people who are saying to us, how do I tell my boss I kind of never want to see her again in person? I never really want to go back to the office and I want completely remote work, and other people who are saying kind of in between. And it's impacted us in a lot of different ways. So please know that obviously you're not alone. So many people are less motivated. They're feeling less connected to just people in general and less engaged. I think now that things are opening up again, those symptoms, so to speak, are improving, which is great. But the reason why we bring this up is one of the first things we want you to start to think about when you're considering whether it's time to go or to change jobs is how long have you felt this way before you make that decision? Is it mostly due to or because of COVID that you're feeling unsettled and less motivated, et cetera? Or is it pre-COVID, and you're like, okay, it's been longer than that. So it really is about my job. It's really about either like my coworkers or the culture of the organization, etc. So you just want to think about, like, is this kind of a passing phase, and am I considering it just because so many other people are, or is it something that I've really felt this way for a while, but COVID just kind of highlighted it a little bit more? So this will help you be more practical, realistic, and thoughtful and smart about making the decision. So this is your first action step. Let's look at our agenda for today. And we are open to sharing our slides. I'll show you that email address in just a second, and it is in the chat box too. So we'll talk about why it's important to be engaged in your work. We'll give you 8 red flags for knowing if you are in the wrong fit. We will talk with you about defining fulfillment first, to really think about if it's time to stay or go. And we'll share with you our ideal career model. And all of these pieces are things that in your breakout rooms, we want you to be thinking about, like, okay, so far, based on, the things that Hallie has shared, what's my sense of evaluating, like, whether it's time to make a move or not, okay? Especially with the ideal career model and defining fulfillment first. If anyone would like a copy of our slides, in addition to the recording, you will receive the recording. As Nicole said earlier, you can just email us at admin@halliecrawford.com. That's in the chat box as well. So why this is important, it's because we don't want to be like this man on this page. When we are not engaged at work and not fulfilled, it takes a very big toll on our quality of life, both inside and outside of the workplace. We're more likely to be depressed, et cetera, anxious. So we all know why this is important, because we're here for a reason today. And we want to think about also, in addition to how long have you been feeling this way, think also about why I'm in my job in the first place. There's lots of different reasons why we can get stuck in the wrong fit. It's a normal situation. We may be really good at our job, but it's no longer rewarding or challenging. For some people, it's the golden handcuffs, and they're making great money, and they just don't feel like they can leave that or walk away from it. Other people will tell us that friends or family members told me I should take this job, and hey, it was offered, so I took it. So the other thing that you can do to think about whether it's time to stay or go is really list out right now, as of today, at this point in your career, why are you in your current position? Okay, why am I here? And think about, are these the right or wrong reasons? Am I here for good reasons, or ones that they're kind of maybe superficial, or ones that don't matter as much to me? So making a list of why you're in your current job can be a really helpful exercise to help you come at this in a little bit different way as well. So as part of why this is important, one of the other things we want you to be thinking about is how dramatic of a change might be needed when we're talking with our clients about making a possible career move and leaving their jobs. We always want to tell them, normally, kind of 9 times out of 10, people don't have to make as dramatic of a change as they think they need to in order to be satisfied. So we want you also to think in terms of, like, on a continuum of, like, how big of a change do I really need to make? And we'll launch this first poll here, Nicole, if we could. That would be fantastic. We want you to know that normally you can make more of a course correction to get into the right fit. You may need to change, stay in the same industry, for example, but go to a different organization. You may need to stay in your current industry, but just move into a different role. So there's different levers that you can push of industry, role, type of organization, in some cases, location, remote work, etc. But we want you to feel consistently engaged at work, like way more than 50% of the time. So that's why we have this first poll up, to know that you're not alone, and that's kind of the percentage we want you to be at. And we want you to think about, where are you on a scale of satisfaction, if you will, because if you're extremely unsatisfied, it may be that you need to make more dramatic of a change versus, it's kind of off and on in terms of satisfaction. So with our first poll, we've got almost like half and half with this, which is interesting. And so again, because it's half and half like that, think about, how dramatic of a change do I need to make? Because it may not be quite as much as you think depending on your level of satisfaction, but also how often or not you're engaged at work. If it's a lot of the time you're not engaged, then more dramatic of a change. The good news is obviously that you can be really engaged and fulfilled in your work. Even though work is work, you can still feel excited about it, lit up, like a sense of fulfillment, etc. And we already talked on this slide about usually it needs to be less dramatic of a change than you think. And that's why we're here today, to help you be a little bit more realistic about your thinking here. And at the bottom of the right-hand side of this slide here, what we want to kind of say to frame this out a little bit more when you're thinking about staying or going and what would be the right fit. Nothing is going to be perfect. No job is going to be peaches and cream every single second of the day. There's always things that we're going to have to deal with, put up with a little bit. That's just normal. I feel that way, even though I'm passionate about what I do. There are still certain things that I would rather not have to deal with in my business. What we want you to go for is to have the right perspective, if you will, is that the good parts about your job so far outweigh the bad parts, the things that you don't like as much, that you barely notice those things that you don't enjoy. And the other thing that we find with our clients is that the more that they feel like they're at choice in choosing their career path, and also in choosing the places or areas in their jobs where they may need to compromise a little bit, the more satisfied they are. So it's so much better to say, I can compromise on these 2 or 3 things because I can live with those if I'm getting these other 10 things over here. You're going to feel a lot better. So there is going to be some element of compromise, but you want to be at choice. That helps you be more realistic. Okay. So let's look at step number 2, or tip number 2, if you will. And this is our 8 red flags for knowing if you are in the wrong fit at the end of the day. It's kind of like our quick little career quiz, if you will. So we'll show you these red flags, and then we'll tell you, depending on how many you checked off, what your situation is, okay? So some of the red flags, the first 4 listed on this slide here. If you dread getting out of bed every single morning, it's not just the Monday morning blues, then that's a clue that you're probably not in the right fit. You don't want to feel that way every single day. That's not acceptable, and you don't have to feel that way. Number 2 is if you're noticing that your work relationships and your performance, or either one, are suffering, then that's probably that you're in the wrong fit, or a sign that you're not in the right place. Number 3, if you gain like no joy or very little satisfaction from anything that you do, like maybe your joy or satisfaction from your job is like 10% of the time, that's definitely not enough. That's the wrong fit. And finally, well, at least for number 4, if you've noticed you have a little bit of like senioritis and you've started to slack off at work a little bit and have little or no motivation to do any of the tasks, maybe even tasks or projects that you have enjoyed in the past, that's a huge red flag as well, because we want you to feel motivated. Now, remember, as we said earlier, there are always going to be times when you feel a little bit less motivated. Maybe it's when you're working on a specific project or task, or working with a specific, client or customer. So again, you want to separate not just how long you felt this way, but how often you feel this way as well during the course of your day. And if you start to identify and think about how often it is, you might start to notice some trends like, oh, this is really about working on this kind of project. That's what I don't like, but everything else is okay. Let's look at the next 4 red flags. The next set is if you feel like you have to become someone else at work, meaning you can't be as authentic or yourself as you would like to be, then that's a huge red flag. Now, we all have to remember that we have a professional persona. Like, it's not like we're going to, lay everything out on the line and every, personal stuff too. But if you really feel like you have to turn into another person, so to speak, in order to be successful and kind of fit in at your job, that's a red flag. Number 6 is if your job doesn't make use of your talents. And I would add to this one, those talents that you would like to use and continue to use. Sometimes we have clients tell us, I'm great at spreadsheets or event planning or whatever it is, but I'm sick of it. I don't want to do that anymore. So don't just think about, does it make use of your talents and strengths, but those ones that you want to be leveraging at this point in your career. And number 7 and 8 are if you realize that you spend most of your time complaining about your job. And if you regularly kind of fantasize about quitting, being fired, or let go. Those are some huge red flags. Now, I chuckle a little bit, but I realize this is a serious thing too. Like most of us don't want to be fired or let go, and we would never wish that on any of our clients. But some people, we had a client, just using a very quick example, who's just a really good one. She got on the phone with one of our coaches, and less than a minute in, the coach said to her, "You sound really good today. What's going on, or what happened?" And she said, "I got fired last week." And she was thrilled because it was hard for her to make the leap and make a move. She was totally miserable, but it was hard for her to kind of pull the trigger and do something different. And so for her, without even fully realizing it in advance, it opened up a door for her enormously. So in some cases, having the push out the door can be the thing that we need, but in an ideal world, we'd rather that you make the choice, obviously, to make the move. Here's our results for the red flag test. And then let's go ahead and launch our next poll as we go through these. If you have 1 or 2 red flags, then you fall on the side of the, less than satisfied, but not completely on the extreme. You may just be going through a rough patch at your current job, your current company, etc. And you may want to say to yourself, okay, let me see if I can make some changes where I am based on what we are talking about today. And for example, some of the elements of our ideal career model. And then you can reevaluate it in 3 months and see how you feel at that point. If you have 3 or 4 red flags, you're probably not in the exact right career or job, but you may be closer than you think to your ideal. Write down what works for you and what doesn't work in your current position to get started, to say, even when you write that out, how many things do you have that work? How many things do you have that don't work? And what types of things are there? And what does that mean in terms of making a change? And if there are 5 or more red flags, it's definitely time to go and make a change. So let's take a look at our second poll here. Thank you all for participating in it. So we've got 25% unsure, which makes sense. Given you some answers here, we've got some more things to share with you to help evaluate. 44% are saying, no, it's not time to go quite yet. We'll show you the career model so you can help evaluate that just a little bit more and think about where you may want to go in the long run. And we've got 31% are saying, yes, it is time to go. So this is another way of several, as we're talking about today, to help you evaluate. And just by the way, I would use all of the tools that we're providing to you only because some ways of approaching this situation may be a little bit more helpful to you than others based on how you think and what your situation is, et cetera, et cetera. So using all of them will help give you like a more comprehensive answer, if you will. And I'm just kind of looking back and forth here, guys, because I've got split screen as I'm advancing my slides. So let's talk about tip number 3, and this is defining fulfillment first. So when you're thinking about whether to stay or go, and also thinking about what might be a better fit for you, because we have nothing wrong with, even if you're unsure about whether it's time to make a move, we have nothing wrong with people looking on job boards just to poke around a little bit and see what's out there. And if anything piques your interest or, gets you jazzed and motivated and excited, like there's no harm in doing that, just to kind of check things out a little bit. That could help you make a decision based on what else you see is out there too. But when you're thinking about this as well, we want you to think about what would be most fulfilling and rewarding to you first. And if you are experiencing a deep or at least kind of meaningful sense of fulfillment in your current position in some way, shape, or form. You may not want to or have to say, I feel so passionately about my job. That may not be the right way to describe it for yourself. You may be more of like, I want to have a sense of accomplishment every day. or I want to have a sense of I'm helping other people, or I'm doing something positive, or I'm contributing. There are lots of different ways that we all define fulfillment to ourselves. And there are 4 ways to start to think about that for you in your unique situation and what's important to you. One way is to write down for yourself what success means to you at this point in your life and in your career and kind of post-COVID, if you will. What does success look like today for me? Is it working remotely, having that life balance, but also getting paid well? Does it mean I want to have a greater impact on people in my team or just people within my organization in general, or our customers, for example? So think about defining or how you define success. And really with this exercise, write about it. It can only take like 5 or 10 minutes. It doesn't have to take that long, but just blurt out what comes to mind first. Don't overthink it, because you'll get closer to what truly success means to you at this point in your career if you just kind of spit it all out very quickly. The second thing that you can do is to identify your interests. Where are the things or the times in your career, work life, but also in your personal life that you lose track of time? And what is it that's cool about those interests for you? So even if, for example, you have a hobby outside of work that you really enjoy, but that's not a viable, realistic, practical career path for you, think about what is underneath that interest. Is it creativity? Is it taking a little bit of a risk? Is it just having a new challenge? And are there ways that you can incorporate some of those things either into your current job or into your next position? Okay, so dig underneath your interests in those places and times where you lose track of time to see if there's anything you can incorporate into your current job and what those themes are between those things as well. A third thing you can do is to visualize or write about your ideal day at work and what qualities would it have. We have some of our clients create a vision board for those people that are really visual and like that, to kind of portray their ideal day at work. And what's cool about that is they'll start to see themes between the different pictures and images, if you will, that they're drawn to. And then the last thing that we have our clients do too is to identify and be really clear about what their top 3 career values are and how they define those values and what it means for their fulfillment. So we have them conduct, if you will, or think about and evaluate what we call a peak experience exercise. The peak experience could be a moment in time in your life when you felt lit up and excited and fulfilled. It could be a period of time in your life. It doesn't matter, but we like people to choose a personal peak experience because they'll get closer to the heart piece and what's truly meaningful to them. And we want you to think about and write about and even share it with a friend or family member or coach like us to help you pull out the career values. We want you to think about what was cool about that experience for you. So for example, if it was a trip to Europe, pre-COVID, let's say, one person might say, I love the planning, the deciding where we would stay, what we would be doing at each, step of the way, et cetera, et cetera. That's more a value of like organizing, detail, project management kind of stuff. Versus another person might say a trip to Europe, and they're talking about the experience being there, the food and the culture, for example. That person is more into, for example, creating experiences for people and has a value of that. So clarifying what your values are and what's fulfilling to you will help you faster than anything else determine if you are in the right job or not, versus just looking at your strengths and some other practical things that are important. But we really want that heart piece to kind of, that box to be checked, if you will. And we'll show you why that's so important too. But defining fulfillment first is also incredibly helpful for thinking about what would be the next best career move for you if you decide it's time to make a move. What our clients get the most kind of career ideas, if you will, in terms of their brainstorming from defining what would be most fulfilling to them first. If any of you feel like your situation is really unique, or you need a little bit more help with this fulfillment thing because we realize it's a little bit more esoteric, et cetera, please know we're happy to chat with you. We do a free career strategy session, if you will. We'll give you some additional advice for your situation. And it's also a call to learn a little bit more about our coaching services though too, and how we can assist you further. So we're happy to schedule that. It's the same email as it is for the slides. Let's talk about our fourth and final tip before we move to breakout rooms and Q&A here in just a few moments. The fourth thing we really want you to do is review our ideal career model. So this ideal career model we created a long time ago to help people understand what are the components to the right fit for them, the right career. And these are all of the items or components that you need to consider in order to know if you're in the right job in the long run. This model helps you be a little bit more objective and consider all of the necessary components of the right fit. And we would recommend reviewing each of the pieces one by one, step by step, to help you further clarify whether it's time to stay or go, but it can also help you figure out what would be a better job if I decide it's time to make a move. I'll explain the model here for just a moment. We talked about fulfillment already. Am I getting a sense of satisfaction, fulfillment, etc., from my current position? The next piece to the left is, am I working on tasks that are enjoyable to me for the most part? So are the projects and tasks and my clients and coworkers, am I getting a sense of just like enjoyment and engagement in terms of my tasks? Am I leveraging my strengths and talents in a way that I want to? We talked about this earlier. You want to also think about, am I leveraging my past education and my past experience in a way that I want to? And if the answer is no, you may want to look at classes that you took at Emory to give you additional possible career ideas. If you're like, oh, I remember that class and I really loved it, for example, that could be a career path that you want to consider next. You finally want to consider your personality type and how it relates to your work environment. These two are critically important. Your personality type, whether you're introverted, extroverted, more of a leader or behind the scenes kind of person, it impacts the role that you play and whether you're in the right fit there, as well as the team that you're in, and also the right fit in terms of the culture and the work environment. And our personality type, we can't change. So these two are huge make or breaks for career fit. Work environment is about the culture of your organization, their mission, the people there, what the, the location is, what your office is like, everything else. We have had clients come to us and think they need to go be a chef or something completely different from a consultant than they, are now, or the type of job that they're doing now. And a lot of times, not every single time, but enough of the time, work environment is the thing that's the problem. So we really want you to think about the work environment as well as compensation too. And compensation is a really big deal these days because we don't want you to just think about compensation in terms of money. It's also benefits, flex time, remote work, etc. All of these pieces need to be in place, and you can use the model as a checklist to say, okay, should I stay or go? So I wanted to mention before we go into breakout rooms, just talk about career assessments for a moment, because we find that they can be really helpful to help you figure things out too. And we'll do our final poll as we go. This is our last poll for today. So some of you may have taken a career assessment before, like StrengthsFinder or Myers-Briggs or something like that. And we would recommend to everyone on this call, to help you figure out if it's time to make a move or not, that these career assessments can be incredibly helpful and useful. They give you quick information that is usually incredibly accurate and true to who you are. However, you don't want to use this in a vacuum, because career assessments typically, if we just scroll back here for a second while you're completing the poll, they only will test you for one component of the model. So if any of you have said, well, I took an assessment and it didn't give me the answers I wanted, that's because they may be testing you for your personality type, but they're not talking to you about any of these other pieces or your strengths, etc. So we really like the career assessment, so to speak, the StrengthsFinder assessment, and I'll put that in the chat here in just a moment. That can help you get a sense of, okay, am I leveraging the strengths I want to be leveraging on a regular basis? And based on those things, should I stay or go? It's a quick, easy kind of way to assess that. But again, we want you to use our career model as well to to help you evaluate too. And it looks like, no, it's not exactly 50-50 with our poll. A lot of people have taken a career assessment before. You can use those results now, even if you took the test a long time ago. Use them at this point, kind of dust them off, bring them back out to say, okay, is this a fit based on those assessments? That's a really good way to make an evaluation too. And our final slide before we go into breakout rooms, and I want to thank everyone so much for your time and attention today so far, is remember too that when you're thinking about when it's time to, or if it's time to go and make a move, that you want to think about yourself first and what's going to work for you first, of course. But you also want to think about, okay, reading the room of your organization and industry. Is this a good time to make a move or not? Do I want to make a move to an industry that is thriving more? And if you're thinking about an industry that's not doing so well, you may want to think about that a little bit more and see if they're able to pivot and adjust. Consider what else you might be happy with at this time too. If you can't make a move right away, are there changes you can make at your current job to feel a little bit more satisfied? And try that out and see if that helps. Like more flex time, a bonus, a title change. I know some of these things might seem crazy. You can't just walk into the boss and say that, but employers are listening more than ever to what employees want. We've had clients tell us their organizations are giving them their bonuses way early because they want their people to stick around. All the way to another client who gets a stipend from his company of a certain amount every year to spend on professional education or even on personal stuff. And he's actually taking scuba diving classes. So these are the things we want you to think about, all of the above. And Nicole, we can go ahead and start setting up the breakout rooms if that works for you.
Yep, I've got them ready to go. So if you, I know everyone denoted ahead of time if they plan to participate in breakout rooms. So I've got everyone loaded in. We'll have about 3 to 4 people per room. And we will have you in breakout rooms for about 8 minutes. So I'm about to go open the room. So get ready and here we go.
Okay, great. And discuss what we've talked about today. Is it time to stay or go? And how do you know? Oh, good. Someone said great combo in our breakout room. That's awesome. Tell us more. So we'd love to hear from you all. Like, you know, did you decide whether it's time to stay or go? And even if not, understandably, because we gave you some stuff that you kind of got to think about. What did you learn from having the conversation? So someone says time to go. That's good. It's knowledge is power. It's good to have a decision. And Yabi, if you could, if you don't mind sharing more in the chat box about what you all discussed and what you learned, that would be great. And also, while you all are noodling on all of that, please do come up with at least like one action item that you'll take in the next, week or so to figure this stuff out or start to make the move. Like, hey, I need to update my resume or, whatever it is. And also this is a good time for us to do our Q&A as well before we wrap up for today. So another person said one of us needed a change and the other was on the fence. Okay, understandably, this is where I think thinking a little bit more about the career model could kind of help you. Because I really think that if you sit down with the model and like almost literally use it as like a checklist, and you could say to yourself in a way, okay, only 3 out of the 8 boxes are checked. Okay, probably, time to make a change. So just noodle on that. That would probably be my biggest piece of advice. Someone else shared that they'll take the StrengthsFinder quiz. Yeah, we like the StrengthsFinder. I don't know, Nicole, if you all offer assessments through your office or not. You can share that with us too. But the StrengthsFinder we like as well because it helps people prepare effectively for interviews. It gives you that tangible stuff. And just by the way, too, we are okay with people purchasing the lower cost, like 5 strengths version. We don't necessarily think people have to get like their top 20 or whatever it is. It's almost like that's more confusing than not. Okay. talked about mainly about employers needing to be more flexible with their employees. Yeah, they have to be these days because the market is demanding it, and focusing more on what they need to feel supported. Also talked about the importance of leadership and culture. Yeah, that's huge. We've had clients tell us that there's a leadership change, for example, and they no longer feel connected to the organization or believe in the leadership or the mission, et cetera. So that leadership piece and culture is huge. That's a good one. Another person is sharing, they've known for a while, it's time to go actively looking, but felt good to know that others are in the same place. Yep. And plenty of women out there looking for something new and remote and different too. Other people are sharing they love the Strengths Finder. Yeah, I like the Strengths Finder too, because you don't have to have someone else interpret the results. They're just very like for the lay person, so to speak. So that can be really, really helpful. Intro session, unable to.
Hallie, I can share. So we don't currently offer any discounts on any of these career assessment tools ourselves. However, we do offer a discount to the Emory continuing education programs for alumni, and some of those might include career assessments in their courses. So if there are, however, any career assessments in addition to StrengthsFinder that people have enjoyed taking or found useful, please let us know. It's something that we're actually looking into, is incorporating those into our alumni professional development offerings. So there might be some to come, but I will say myself, I took Highlands Battery, and I really enjoyed that one as well. I took it as a part of a course. So there are plenty out there, but I know some of them can be costly. So yeah.
Well, and I have found, I don't know if you've seen this at all, Nicole, but I've actually seen like free kind of teaser versions of some of the assessments online too. So if you Google like free career assessment or, whatever, sometimes you can find like a quick little free version of it. And that can help too, because they can be really expensive. Someone's asking which course. It was the Highlands Battery that Nicole was talking about, like Highlands, North Carolina. Oh yeah, there we go. Thanks, Nicole. And then another person is sharing the DISC profile. That's a really good one too. And I feel like I've seen, and I realize I'm sitting way too close to my screen here. Sorry, I get excited and my glasses don't always work as well. Using assessments with your team can be really, really great too, as like a good leadership team building exercise. But if you Google free career assessments, you can find a lot of different options, I think, there too. Any other questions that anybody has while we're at it here and before we head out in a minute? I'm really glad that everyone, or at least the people who shared, that you got value out of talking with other people, because I think it's the two heads are better than one concept. It's really good not just to hear that other people are looking and, struggling with the same thing, but when we're in our own head, it can be so hard sometimes to know what to do and in a way kind of get out of our own way, and having someone else give us an idea or suggestion or a thought. It's huge. I have my own coach. I use a coach all the time because we can't always fix our own stuff. It's normal. All right. It looks like we're pretty good, Nicole. I don't see any more questions coming in, which is maybe we answered most of them.
Perfect. I think so. All right. Well, thank you, Hallie. Well, if you're good, I'm happy to wrap us up.
Yep, I'm good to go. And reminder, everyone, you will receive a copy of the recording. And if you'd like a copy of the slides, our email address is right there.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Well, with that, I want to hope you can join me in a virtual round of applause for our fantastic speaker today, Hallie Crawford. And of course, give yourself a pat on the back for being here with us today and being willing to take some steps towards a meaningful and fulfilling career. So after the event, like we mentioned, you'll receive a follow-up with some information about scheduling a session with Hallie, as well as some links to a few upcoming events that we have that we think you'll be interested in. We also encourage you to schedule a complimentary session with Hallie for additional assistance. Also mark your calendars, as well we will have several other opportunities to learn. We have another session that will be hitting calendars soon with Hallie herself on August 10th at 1 p.m. to discuss effective work in remote environments. So with that, we will go ahead and let you return to your regular daily programming. But we're so excited to have you all join us today. And again, appreciate your time. We will also send out a survey following the session. So let us know how we did. Let us know what you'd like to hear about in the future. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.